Back.
We are back. It is the fun half. We will open up the phone lines shortly, but let's just start here while because we almost opened with this, but another important story. There was an NYU student speaker at the NYU graduation who chose to speak about Palestine, and NYU is now withholding his diploma. Let's just hear the speech. See if you can find anything.
This one-sided speech, according to NYU, which charges six figures to get a fucking degree from their university, can't determine what kind of issue should be one-sided. Maybe genocides, I would suggest. This was supposedly a one-sided speech, according to that prestigious university of higher education that I have to pay usurious money to myself. So, God bless this student.
So please join me in welcoming to the podium the NYU Gallitan 2025 student speaker, Logan Rozos.
Greetings, Gallitan's faculty and staff, esteemed alumni speaker, fellow graduates, and loved ones. Trying to find my family in the crowd. There they are. I've been freaking out a lot about this speech, honestly. And as I search my heart today in addressing you all, my moral and political commitments guide me to say that the only thing that is appropriate to say in this time and to a group this large is a recognition of the atrocities currently happening in Palestine.
Sounds like the students really hate this.
I want to say that the genocide currently occurring is supported politically and militarily by the United States, is paid for by our tax dollars, and has been live streamed to our phones for the past 18 months, and that I do not wish to speak only to my own politics today, but to speak for all people of conscience, all people who feel the moral injury of this atrocity. And I want to say that I condemn this genocide and complicity in this genocide.
Good for that prof clapping to their right there. I see a little bit of approval from the people on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to the class of 2025.
Wow.
And congratulations.
So I think you got it. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Those are the totality of the remarks. You did hear some counter protests, or counter, I guess, boos, but it was overwhelmingly
Jeering.
positive. Sorry.
Yeah. No, some people were jeering, but obviously like the applause was, resoundingly louder in drowning that out.
Yeah, and we know that this bears out when you look at views of Israel and Palestine with young people. If you're under the age of 30, you're very, very likely to have a negative view of Israel right now. This has been analyzing. We've cited this poll now probably a dozen times, but I just still want to return to it from Pew Research because There's not a ton of polling on this because of the McCarthyite nature and the cover-up. But there's been a major shift in terms of negative views of Israel, and it's been mostly driven by people who are younger. I would also say Democrats. There's been even looking at this, if you're a Democrat or lean Democrat, you're above 50. In 2022, 43% had negative views of Israel. Now that's 66%. If you're 18 to 49, 71% of Dems or lean Dems have negative views of Israel. But even if you're a Republican under the age of 50, half of all Republicans or lean Republicans under the age of 50 have a negative view of Israel. So this is not about protecting students. They took that kid's diploma away. They're trying to kill the spirit and courage of the students who came there to learn, and he learned. He learned.
This is the second year in a row this has happened. It's no accident that the people that rise to the top of the classes are the ones that are going to, this is a meritocracy, right? And the roar of those students is so exceptional to view here. And I think Jeet here has made this point. Right now, and this is at places like NYU, this is at 60 Minutes, this is in the Democratic Party. Support for Israel is being maintained by an iron grip by those who are in power. It is the popular base for this is gone. It should have, not a moment too soon. But yes, this has to be imposed using draconian methods, which is like a student, one of the best exemplars that your university produced over the course of like a certain amount of years. Now you have to withhold their diploma and say they were one-sided? Shame on you for not being, quote, one-sided on what we are seeing right now. It is disgusting, and it is because they're Zionists making the decisions for these university boards. It's like the same thing with Columbia. It's at the very top, and people need more courage, like the Ben and Jerry's guy or this student here, to call that out and break this levee wide open.
And we saw this condemnation with Donald Trump in his first term when he said there were good people on both sides of the Charlottesville neo-Nazi demonstration. It's not the exact same, but it should be the same construction. There is no comparison between the sides of one side committing genocide and the other side being a victim of it. And it's offensive to suggest otherwise, let alone to take punitive action against a student to suppress his righteous speech, to stand up for the people who are currently being exterminated with our tax dollars.
I think it's telling that the student was able to actually finish the speech without being taken off stage, without his mic being cut. Because I think it's clear, as I think Matt Leck alluded to, like everyone there, even the teachers or students or obviously the students, but anyone with any power there did not have any reaction to it because they were just going to let it go. This was a decision made from the top down by people probably not even in the room, from some board, right? Yeah. From some board, from some administrators that they found out about it afterwards and needed to dole out a punishment specifically really to tell the students who are still at NYU that this is what will happen to you next year or in 2 years or whenever you graduate if you dare to try the same thing.
Absolutely. And I think just to add to that and what everyone else has already said, what's really frustrating for me is that things like this will absolutely delegitimize these institutions, not just the colleges who are taking away people's diplomas for speaking out against the genocide or calling in the police to crack their skulls, but the mainstream media outlets that are running interference for Israeli genocide, although that's been even ebbing a little bit as it's become harder and harder to deny, but overwhelmingly still running interference. They're delegitimizing themselves. And then as they make themselves weaker, as they make themselves seem less important to protect, despite the fact that they are occupying these incredibly important positions, like they're filling these roles like free press, higher education or society, and they are weakening themselves at a time where fascism is on the rise, and they will try to abdicate responsibility for why people have no faith in these institutions. They will try to pretend it's entirely because the right wing is waging campaigns against them. They will try to use any other mechanism for explaining why people do not trust them anymore besides their own actions, which will inevitably make it harder for people to defend them from like the rising fascist tide in this country.
And I just want to say also to any
Binder.
students who happen to be watching this, that diploma at the end there is just a piece of paper. I can say this as someone, and I'm sure everyone else here. I mean, they're using that, making you think like your future's ruined. You're not getting your diploma. You graduated. You completed the courses. You're done. Don't let them wave a piece of paper in front of you to silence you.
Yeah. And, this reminds me of when Sam had the whole Roman Polanski affair, and he made the point, like, if MSNBC as a news organization cannot determine basic things like what was the intent behind that message, which was to actually satirize as unacceptable the people who wanted to, be apologetic for Roman Polanski, then they should wrap it up. And this whole anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism is that in way larger scale with way higher stakes. And every one of these institutions absolutely fails it because they're corrupted by people at the top who want that conflation to be continued. And it is disgusting that these institutions can charge the best and brightest so much money to supposedly be intellectually curious and get humanities education, and they are adhering to a lie that is designed to protect a genocidal state right now. It's just like, wake the fuck up.
I mean, let's put up the statement by NYU, because I'm not exactly clear on, and there's not a lot of articles on this. Try to find an article in the English language right now about how there's been dozens of well, I guess I found a few this morning, but it's so rare. Like, Israel has been just bombing the hell out of Gaza for the past 2 days in retaliation for Trump going around them to dare to get the U.S. hostage out, which is what Biden should have done. Here it is in the statement from NYU. NYU strongly denounces the choice by a student at the Gallitan school's graduation today. What's Gallitan? It's one of the schools, Matt, right?
Yeah.
One of our 20 school graduation ceremonies across our campus to misuse his role as a student speaker to express his personal and one-sided political views. He lied about the speech he was going to deliver and violated the commitment he made to comply with our rules. The university
We wanted no anti-Israel things.
Yes. The university is withholding his diploma while we pursue disciplinary action. So,
disgusting.
Binder, I'm not sure if that's the case. Like, I'm not sure if they mean they're literally withholding his ability to graduate, because they say they follow it up with disciplinary action.
I mean, it's been a while since I graduated, but when I graduated, we did all the paperwork. Everything was done, and that diploma was just a piece of paper. They said they made it clear, and in fact, we didn't even get our real diploma at the thing. They didn't even have them ready. So,
right, but then what would a disciplinary action entail if he's no longer a student anymore? So that's my fear.
I don't know.
I mean, this what should happen?
This could just be a statement that's put out there to. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you want to go the whole way, you paid for the damn school, you completed the courses, you could sue them and probably graduate. I mean, you'll probably.
But can you? Like, this is the problem. There's Zionists, there's a mass McCarthyite cover up right now. Zionist McCarthyism of the 21st century. I don't know that that is true fully, because I'm concerned about this kid. That's all I'm saying.
And I think regardless of the mechanism, we can be honest that they're trying to bully him. They're trying to make an example of this kid so that other people do not follow suit. And that action in and of itself is, it's immoral. It kind of reveals that despite what's on the tin of all of these liberal college institutions, it's a very authoritarian strain of, essentially just operating as a business that has shareholders in the form of donors or shareholders in the form of board members who are always going to take precedent over whatever ostensible dedication to like the process of learning they put on the crest in Latin in 3 words. And I think as kids are becoming more cynical about higher education, things like this do not help. Because it proves beyond a shadow of doubt that it's not about what you learn. It's about how you comport to the very specific set of rules, political funding of the institution, and everything else is secondary to that. Like, that's kind of what I mean about they're devaluing themselves, and they're going to try to make it everyone else's responsibility for that in the future. Anyone who cares about these things are going to be made to run interference for them if Trump ever decides to attack higher education even more.
Well, I mean, elite universities are using it's part of their modus operandi to use money as a disciplinary tool for its student base. Like, and I'm not blaming the universities fully for the student debt that people are saddled with, but it's a similar dynamic where it's like,
They ain't fighting it.
yeah, think about it for a second. If you go through, NYU was one, like my cousin went there, and like the amount of student debt that she had coming out of that school, because it was so expensive, but it was her dream to go there. She wanted to be in school in New York City. That's like a dream that a lot of kids have, I think, right? They implement that level of debt. So you go into some sort of career where you'll make more money, you can pay that off more quickly, and you're not going to do something like work for a nonprofit or be a journalist or something like that. It's much more difficult. They're also using the expensiveness of NYU, and other elite institutions are doing the same, to say, like, is this really what you want to risk for your little speech against genocide? Because we could pull this back. Like, this is what... But Dave from Jamaica says that you could block his transcript access. Just another guy, the diploma is ceremonial, but your actual degree is what your official college transcript says, and the school absolutely has control over that. So that's just my one concern. But yeah,
I mean, unless you're going into like a field like the medical field or something like that, where there's a secondary school. This is my personal experience, again, very anecdotal, but no job has ever checked my transcript. They see that I say I graduate, and that's that. But at the same time, though, these schools, though, if they go down this road, then they're going down a very slippery slope for themselves, because degrees, unless like there was some sort of cheating scandal or plagiarism, once you earn the degree, that's it. They don't revoke the degree. If they start doing that because of a student's opinion or actions in something like this, which has nothing to do with their records, then why would anyone pay money for just all that money just for a school to 4 years down, any school 4 years down the line, to say, you know what, we don't like your opinion, we don't like what you said, degree revoked? People would just stop going. What's the whole point? So if these schools want to do that, they're going down a very slippery slope of people doling out their money to get this degree that can just be plucked from them because they have the wrong opinion on something down the line.
That's the key point, is people should be under no illusions what they're doing when they, and I say this as somebody who graduated not Gallitan, which is the like school for individualized study. So that's kind of funny that this kid gets kicked. I went to Steinhardt, but people should be under no illusions what they are getting when they go to these schools. And the only value that, you know, why I don't regret going to NYU myself, despite, you know, how much it costs every fucking month, is the roar of those students, and you get put amongst people like that. But in terms of like this Gallatin was like Thomas Jefferson's like Secretary of Commerce or whatever. That's how far back this institution goes. And they are, like Bender said, lighting its reputation on fire for a colonial state that is doing a genocide right now. Piss it away. 250 years, whatever the fuck. Who cares? Netanyahu needs more bombs to drop on tents. And yeah, people should not go here under... I don't think they should go there, frankly, as someone who went to NYU. I think if you're making this decision as a high school student right now, go to a state school. Do not go to Columbia. Do not go to NYU. Don't go to any of these way too expensive universities. Because, I mean, Binder, do you remember this? Put this up, Russ. This is a tweet you had early in the genocide here. Tablet Magazine's lead story, written by its editor-at-large, is entirely based on the debunked Pallywood conspiracy theories surrounding Palestinian Instagram influencer in Gaza. You remember this, Binder?
I do, yep.
The guy who wrote that Tablet Magazine editor-at-large, was a guy named Lyle Leibovitz, an IDF vet spokesperson, who was an NYU professor who invited Tim Pool to lecture one of my classes, which cost like $450 per session. And Tim Pool basically came and talked about how he had like external battery accessories at Occupy, and that's why he's a good journalist, whatever. You should not go to these institutions for the institution prestige or for the content. You should go there if you want and you can afford it. I mean, I couldn't afford it. I still don't mind going there because of the associations you get, again, with the type of people who roar when they hear somebody get on stage and say what they are thinking, which is that our university is complicit in this shit. And it goes even far beyond Israel into participation with Gulf state monarchies and, you know, different types of campuses. There is a moral rot at the top of all of these organizations, and it's driven by finance and money. But the inability to realize like what is righteous and what is one-sided and what your obligations are as an institution that, again, like the class that guy taught, that genocide denier Lyle Leibovitz doing the Pallywood conspiracy theory, he taught me digital media activism. A nonviolent protest. I got taught that by an IDF guy at NYU. And that's really that's the understanding. That's that sort of meta understanding that NYU would force feed me something from a despicable person like that. That's actually a greater education than what was on the syllabus.
And that guy who taught you at NYU is now taking an act in that Pallywood article, taking an act of actual citizen journalism, the most dangerous citizen journalism you could do right now, going around Gaza with a camera like that guy was, that he was calling, and he was calling that guy a fake actor who was faking it all. Like, this is who was teaching at NYU.
They're both fake, and they're Hamas, and the babies are Hamas, but also
he literally said, college professor, that if you participate in, like, if you're moved by those sorts of citizen journalists in Palestine, it's motivated by an ancient erotic Jew hatred. These are insane people, but I'm glad I paid, whatever thousands of dollars to like listen to him, talk about how to actually change a society. Great job you're doing, fucking Israel.
A good fascist hallmark is when they say ancient, like, because it's always like, there's no need to think critically about the structure. It's ancient.
Can I listen? I know it's different if it's a career that requires some sort of license that you get through schooling and education, like medical career or becoming a lawyer, the legal career. But let me tell you, I did not go to journalism school. There's no license to practice journalism. For anyone who's looking into journalism, communications, anything like that, you do not need to give these outrageously expensive schools money. Most companies, that will hire you do not care about what school you went to. It's your body of work, and you can easily do this stuff on your own and build up a portfolio that'll get you the job that you want. Trust me on this. I did not go to journalism school.
To to make your point even harder, I did go to journalism school at Columbia. It cost me an arm and a leg. I graduated more than 10 years ago, just finished paying for it last year. And every once in a while they asked me to go there and speak to the students or talk to especially the documentary class. And I was there last year, and the professor that I was invited by started to tell me that they're in a crisis now because no one does want to go there. And so, like, when I was there, it was like very hard to get in, and very few people were accepted. And they're saying now basically the acceptance rate is like half or more. Like, if you apply and you're a decent student, you show interest in journalism,
and you'll pay full price.
Yeah. So, like, to your point, it's like, everyone seems to already be waking up to this fact that it's kind of frivolous and a waste of money. And
let me just correct myself on the Gallitan thing. It was named after Jefferson's Secretary of Treasury, but doesn't go back that far. It was founded in 1972, funnily enough, as the, quote, university without walls, unless those walls are in the West Bank.
All right, let's do 16. Just we'll have a little bit of a palate cleanser. I had seen this earlier. Maybe this isn't a palate cleanser. That's the wrong way to, but whatever. No way to transition here. So Joe Rogan is weighing in on Kanye's new song. I don't know if people have heard it, but
he's got a whole new album. Don't just get stuck on the single.
Oh, the album with the swastika cover, or was that just his T-shirt the other day?
I think one of the deep cuts is like, I gave oral sex to my cousin.
Oh, I heard that. Oh, don't you worry. Don't you remember I played that out on my phone on the speaker?
The album cover, I think he removed the swastika, and it's now like him in a KKK outfit or something like that. To be clear.
Is this Cuck?
Nice?
Is
what?
That the album?
This is Cuck. Yes, this is Cuck.
To be fair, the new song, which I won't say the title of, is way better musically than the Cousin song. Just in terms of
you're
like
about to.
Look,
you're about to hear Rogan make that case. What?
All I can
What'd
say,
you say?
Yeezus beats were great too.
Yeah.
No, but I literally think that there's a point to that though, and I think it is dangerous because it's specifically made as an earhook song. Like, it's not like so.
It's not a good song. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Cousins was really bad.
No, right, but there's a way. Like it's not the exact same, but think of commercial jingles. Those aren't good music. That's not good music, but it's created in a way specifically to get it caught in your head, so you're sharing the sentiment in the commercial. I really do feel like he went out of his way, or his producer went out of his way, to make this song that, because that's what it is.
Well, you guys share an opinion with Joe Rogan here.
Who
says we can't build bridges? He also thinks it's catchy. This is his take on it.
I'm not saying it in a good way, though. I want to be clear.
Well, takes it. He'll grant the premise you guys are talking about, but he takes it in a different direction.
Me too.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Speaking of the Jews, have you seen fucking Kanye's new song? Bro, what?
Here's the thing.
Wait, okay. Speaking of the Jews, we're already in a really bad spot here.
I'll just say, like, fuck Joe Rogan. He's somebody who, when Jordan Peterson was on, said, and they were talking about anti-Semitism, went out of his way more than Jordan Peterson did to make sure everyone knew that it was a left-wing problem. He's a despicable actor on this, despite every once in a while people clipping him say something like supposedly based. I guess let this run.
Bro. What? Here's the thing.
What?
My
First of all,
yeah.
kind of catchy.
Well, that's the problem with it. That's the problem. Is like the guy from production, like he's never lost a step. He can make a beat. He can he's so
didn't produce
talented.
this one.
He's a genius.
He's a talented producer, man.
Disagree.
I
didn't
do
produce
think
this
it's
one.
like
Karen,
first of all, I think people are kind of done asking him questions because most of the shit he puts out is like self-released kind of commentary or thoughts. Because he's saying just fucking crazy,
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
But there is a thing where that song is like, what are you doing, dude? Like, what are you doing for
It's
real?
the ultimate pushing back.
Yeah, I guess. But there is like,
Okay, that I don't.
like I think I have a pretty, let things go kind of vibe to me. Right?
Obviously,
Yeah,
your fucking
right? Like,
show.
yeah, like, I
your
don't-
show's ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous show, and I've always been like, yeah, say whatever you're gonna say. But I do think like making a catchy song about that, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like you're just getting, at a minimum, you're just gonna get more people that think it's cool to say Heil Hitler. Like that's at the minimum.
Well, I think that's part of the program. I think it's part of what he's trying to do.
But I mean, is that cool to do? I guess if you're like, well, it's fun to troll
The big question.
masses and get them to do that. Okay, but what I'm saying is that like at a minimum, you're going to get less educated people to go like, this is a fun thing to say, and you're like, I mean, is that good? You really want people just walking around being like, it's tight, man? Heil Hitler. Like, that's fucking insane. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but it's also kind of a sign of the times.
I guess.
This is a chaotic world we're living in.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this kind of highlights the benefits. I mean, I want to say this like carefully because I don't want to think I want to say real clearly. I don't support.
I don't want
people
to piss
saying
off
that.
half my audience.
I don't think it's a good thing to say.
No.
I don't say it. I certainly don't think. I don't think.
You denied that Elon Musk threw 2 Hitler salutes like a few months ago. You said it was derangement.
yeah.
Okay.
Any racism is good. People saying that. I don't think it's a good thing to say.
No.
I don't say it. I certainly don't think. I don't think any racism is good. I don't think anti-Semitism is good. I don't think anti-Christianity is good. I don't think
Big racism.
Asian hate is good. I don't think anything is good.
All religions
But-
matter.
There's a benefit to just letting people talk. Like, let people say whatever the fuck they want to say, even if it sucks. This is the benefit of Twitter. But this is also the bad part. It's like the fucking song has so many millions of hits
Yeah.
on Twitter. It's been banned from every platform.
Yeah.
But is it good to ban things from platforms, or is it better to let it be out there
I see
and
what you're
let
saying,
people
yeah.
talk about it? Because if you ban it, then people want to hear it more.
No!
And then it becomes
All right.
more popular. And then it
Here we go. That was what I just wanted to get to. This is where the free speech debate has gone, okay? It's not on YouTube. It's not on Spotify. It's not on Apple Music. But you know where it is? He did mention it there. It's on Twitter. It's all over Twitter. And you got people doing TikTok dances on Twitter. I shouldn't even rope TikTok into this. Doing dances to a song called Heil Hitler. Like, I don't know, dude. Could you take a moral stand on that? Because this isn't free speech. It's driving me crazy.
Well, so
we have standards and regulations, and we did have that previously for things like television. We deregulated television in the 80s and into the 90s, but you still can't say certain things. You can't say profanity on certain channels until a certain time. You can't advertise certain things without disclaimers, etc. Like, there are regulations. Was that an incumbent? Was that a way to attack free speech? Because this is the same thing. We just don't have the same regulations for our new communications platforms, which is social media. And so, yeah, we wouldn't on television have air somebody singing Heil Hitler over and over again. So we also shouldn't be able to allow it on our major communications platforms. And this is not a free speech issue, idiot.
I also just want to point out, and maybe this will come across like I'm making excuses for Kanye. I'm not making excuses for Kanye. I don't think his music has gotten or stayed as good. I think it's gotten a lot worse, and a lot.
Yeah,
of
that
people,
was an outrageous claim by Tom Segura.
I think that really is just well, he's so famous and so rich. I don't want to come across as being like out of sync. I think his music is like just really not good, Hitler aside. But like Kanye, seems like he's having a mental health crisis. Like, and the right wing is forced to treat it like he's just being normal, like he's just trying to troll.
They did it with Fetterman. Remember,
like,
they were trotting out Fetterman on Fox News and all that stuff.
Yeah, because he's still very famous because he's Kanye West, and now he's saying things that they can, so at least some of them, like the Nick Fuentes types, can genuinely be aligned with. And then of course he's indexing this larger, like, well, I don't want someone as big as Kanye to be cancelable because what does that say about me? That kind of like status defense that public figures get engaged in no matter what happens or what the person does because they're afraid of how that blows back on them. But Kanye is not doing well, and I think this is a cautionary tale of like the dangers of being in a position of really high prominence and the ability to put people on, and how they will enable you to the point in which you like self-destruct and pretend like things are just like okay. Also, like I can concede part of Joe Rogan's point that like making something taboo does oftentimes cause a subsection of the population to fetishize it. But we've also cultivated that mentality in people. People like Joe Rogan have actively cultivated that mentality in people. Right. And now people can like monetize it. So it's not as though people are just like biologically entirely predisposed to engaging in like pursuing out the taboo. It's that like there is a subsection of the population who's become very cynical about their chances in the job market. And now they're just trying to monetize like slurs generally. We have more professional racists now than we've ever had in our history of the country, surprisingly, including probably slavery. And now people are just like mirroring that. That's why they want to put Kanye West on, because they're parasitic to Kanye West. He has billions of dollars probably still. It's very sad, the kind of situation and economy we've created, and presenting it as though Kanye's just trying to mess with the set dressing. It's like, no, even the song says what's going on. The song is just like, I'm having a mental health crisis because my wife left me and all these other things happen. Right. And so I'm promoting Hitler because my kids will at least hear about it. And like it's very sad. And they're just like, oh, this is look at how like good of an artist he is. Like this, to me, the same with the John Fetterman thing. Like I feel slightly sad for both of them, because there are clearly people around them that don't care enough about them to see that this is headed in a very bad, very dark direction.
I mean, YouTube has for a long time had a policy where it removes content that glorifies Nazi ideology. Is Joe Rogan? First of all, I don't remember Joe Rogan having a problem with this until Kanye got involved here. So is the idea that free speech is really for the people at the top of society to continue doing what they do and not getting impeded by it? Of course, like nobody should think that Facebook also should allow the president of the United States to break their moderation thing. But that's really what free speech is for these guys. Or certain people don't have to be edited by The Intercept or something like that. Like free speech is to let the elites cook.
But is he saying anything about the students that are not anti-Semitic, that just happen to be Muslim or Arab or Palestinian?
He's saying there's a lot of anti-Semitism on the left.
Yeah, I mean if you are a free speech advocate, if you are a free speech advocate and you are not raising hell about the imprisonment of people for their speech, but you're now saying Kanye should be able to sing Heil Hitler on Spotify for free speech. Gotta say, I don't really know if I believe and buy the sincerity of your free speech beliefs.
Right. I mean, if Joe Rogan is such a free speech advocate, Spotify pays him a lot of money to have his show. Why doesn't he put his foot down and say, I'm not producing a show for you anymore if you don't put Kanye West's song on Spotify? Why such a free speech advocate? Why doesn't he use his power to and do something about it and demand it and withhold the work that Spotify pays him a lot of money for unless they do it? Or is Joe Rogan just not so committed to the free speech cause? I mean, in reality, the thing is, what's happening to Kanye West isn't even a free speech issue. These platforms have every right to say they don't want to put this stuff out there. Kanye West is not facing any sort of repercussions from the government for this song. He's free to put this song out there on any platform that'll have him or release it himself. There's no jail time in Kanye's future due to the release of this song. On the flip side, though, we just saw numerous students, as Emma brought up, who were jailed for something as small as writing an op-ed in the school newspaper that was critical of Israel. I mean, which is the real free speech issue?
Which is the real anti-Semitism. I mean, that's like what is so obvious here with the humor with which he treats this song. Like, I used to be a huge Kanye fan. I understand he's having a mental health crisis, but like, this is not really that new. He went to the White House.
Slavery sounds like a choice.
In a MAGA hat. Yeah, like it's been maybe a decade of downward spiraling, but there's also I don't know what's going on, but anyway.
He's addicted to nitrous oxide.
Yeah, allegedly, yes.
I mean, we've seen text messages.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Can you bring the nitrous?" I mean, I'm not ready to diagnose him professionally. It seems pretty strong indication, but here's this thing I was talking about with Rogan and Peterson. Listen to the way free speech guy Rogan is talking about the most important free speech issue of his entire generation.
Anti-Semitic guys. There's plenty of anti-Semitism on the left too, by the way. So it's not unique to the right.
Well,
but
particularly now.
Yes, particularly now.
Right.
And so,
what does that mean? What's that mean? Particularly now, anti-Semitism on the left. What the fuck could he possibly mean? What's the most generous interpretation of that? There's not one. He's part of the McCarthyism.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of people like Joe Rogan, when they say freedom of speech, and I'll always hammer this point, they just mean freedom from interference in their ability to commodify whatever they want. They're public figures who are deathly afraid that they might be deplatformed because that's the way they make money. And they're trying to make that a larger anxiety for the rest of the population, as though like we all suffer if Joe Rogan can't make a podcast because there's some sort of larger implications on our civil and human rights. And that's why they're just not interested in the actual implications of our civil rights and things like, although I think Joe Rogan did speak out briefly about the people being taken into custody by plainclothes ICE agents. It's hard to keep track of everything he says in his 3-hour show, but certainly not to the degree that he speaks out against other things he actually doesn't like. He didn't harp on it for 18 episodes like he does against like trans people in sports or things like that. So, we can see what he really cares about. But this is a very, key point when it comes to like people arguing for free speech online. It's very often just like freedom to monetize content. When they talk about you're not allowed to say the N-word, they don't mean you can't say the N-word. They mean you're not allowed to say it on YouTube to monetize it. It's not like, and that's a very American thing. It's not freedom unless it's like, put in the framework of monetization or commodification for a lot of people.
Yep. Jerry at the Beach, hot take, Cousins is Kanye's best song since he went Hitler mode. Feral All Alpha Shitter says, I am to tattle on Brandon for implying Emma has big feet last week when Emma was out. Can I understand the context of that?
I don't even understand the context of it, but I probably said something. No, I said Sam.
I do have bigger feet. I probably shouldn't tell my shoe size and, I'll end up on some website.
Yeah, that's a very bad idea. I can tell you that for free. No, I think I said Sam had big shoes to fill.
Oh, yeah. That's true. I made the mistake of wearing like open-toed sandals on camera once, and Can't give
Should probably change the subject. Someone's probably clipping this.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. I don't mean to get everybody so excited in the audience. Your left testicle writes in, this is why you shouldn't attend these overpriced private universities. They drain your pockets, rely on government grants for research, but because they have a board of trustees donating buildings, they can violate your First Amendment rights as a private actor. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for a lot of them, you're the commodity. You're not like, they don't want you to have like a democratic say in the way. I'm not sure if NYU specifically is invested in Israeli companies or products, but, you know, that's part of a larger conversation about people wanting to, again, be able to monetize whatever they want to monetize without that blowing back on them in any, in any negative way.
Right. Val Shells, I don't think there are unions for comic book artists or writers. Saw a few years ago some people trying to put together one, though.
NYU says it never offered to disclose Israel investments. Despite protesters' claims, university responded to a series of on-campus demonstrations which alleged the administrators had prepared to detail NYU's investments and endowment. But nope. We need to invest in the child-killing country.
Vaughn from Wisconsin. Hey, MR Crew, are you going to zoom out and get granular in the fun half? We're going to get fucking granular. I listened to that yesterday.
I got to say, like, it's there's something about Ezra that I do like and have since like 2008. And then, you know, I just can't agree with him on stuff.
Good for him. Good for him for coming on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I thought that Sam did a good job. Kind of trying to nail him down a little bit.
I'll say I heard some alternate stuff about, say, Austin and housing from people who live there than maybe was put in that book. So.
Well, it was interesting. Like, Sam would talk about money and he would change it to power. And
Ezra viewed the money conversation as a conversation about cost and not power, which I want to credit the guy on Blue Sky who pointed that out, but I thought that was a very succinct way to put that.
It felt like, you know, we're looking at the mechanisms of how change happens or change doesn't. It's like looking at the failing machinery as opposed to the machine, I guess. Like when we're getting, there's a way to get granular where you miss the forest through the trees. And I feel like that's the frustration with the book.
Well, there's like a taxpayer money needs to be put efficiently thing that, like, I'll be honest, like there's plenty of money to make stuff. I kind of don't care how much it costs. But Ezra seems pointedly, this is from Leland Johnson on Blue Sky, Ezra seems to pointedly latch on to money as cost rather than as power. I think that was what Sam was trying to pin him down on. That's a good way to put it.
Greg from The Verge, I'm very concerned that the terrible actions of Israel are emboldening the actual Nazis. It's quite dangerous. Just look at Candace Owens' downloads and you'll see. Now that she's been unshackled from the Daily Wire, she's basically kind of doing whatever she wants with Israel talk and is just engaging in anti-Semitism. And I think that's why you're seeing an increase in it on the right.
I mean, it's a problem when our media, both in terms of like economics, removes like sort of the class struggle element of workers, and so the only messages people are getting are like pro speculation and pro drop shipping. It's the same thing with something like Israel. There's a genocide happening, and the actual righteous voices are having their diplomas withheld. And who are the people being monetized by these tech platforms? It's actual Nazis. Yep.
All right, I'm going to open up the phone lines. We'll take maybe 2 quick calls or so. 646-257-3920. Ned Ludd is a hologram. Ned Ludd's AI hologram. Okay. Right-wingers don't want free speech. They want speech without consequences, but for racial slurs and not political takes on the Palestine issue.
And anti-vax stuff, so you can like say, call the population of American Samoa and say, I didn't have nothing to do with that.
Popular knapsack with various location writes in.
Something simple as a crack pipe, a used crack pipe.
Right-wingers don't want free speech. They want speech without consequences. But no, that was not the right one. My wife and I had to leave Austin last year because it was way too expensive. We could not afford to buy a house. We could barely afford to rent anymore. We moved to North Carolina, and it is much, much more affordable.
That's the thing with all those examples of like, ooh, look at the red state making houses. Like, okay, give it 10 years. Let that mature a little bit.
He said it in the interview. He said Houston is a good place for developers, but not for homeowners. And my bro was like, yeah, that's the problem, bro. All right. Calling from a 260 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing well. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Batty from Cincinnati. I was just calling to comment on something Matt Bender said earlier about graduating but not having a degree. There are people who graduate and they meet all the qualifications for graduation, but they never receive degrees for various reasons. They're called EBDers, so it's like everything but degree. And it kind of cuts both ways because there are people who won't hire EBDers, but at the same time, if the reason you're denied a degree is sort of for a righteous reason or an understandable reason, that can make you more interesting to places you might actually want to work, like, maybe a housing justice coalition or something.
See young people stand out. Do something that doesn't get you your degree, even though you finished the work.
All right. Well,
yeah,
I appreciate that.
There you go.
Yeah, just a hot tip for somebody who spent 12 years in academia.
Good to know. Appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Calling from a 913 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Ben in Chicago.
Ben in Chicago. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to chat a little bit about this conversation with Ezra yesterday, actually.
Sure. I wasn't here, but I did listen to it.
Okay, sure. So I actually grew up in federal housing my entire upbringing. And the reason for that is because I grew up in the military. Plenty of issues to take with the military, of course. But Sam's mentioned a few times, it's pretty much socialism as close as we have in the U.S. Free housing, free health care, free college with the post 9/11 GI Bill. You've got sliding scale child care. But when it comes to housing, this is something that is just constantly in development on military bases. And so military housing is about $150,000 a unit. On the top end, depending on market, it goes up to 300. But that's about a third of what Ezra was quoting yesterday. And so I guess my thinking here is just the overall point is reorienting government to have these be long-term projects rather than one-off in nature. That's how we can help drive the cost down because, in effect, contractors are more interested in getting in on these long-term projects, working with the government over decades or, some of these are 50-year contracts. I guess I'll just cut it there, but curious what your thoughts are because, again, it seems much more efficient than anything that he's proposing.
What is,
I don't know how you write. Well, just the fact of kind of federalizing housing development and reward. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, this is if I were here, it was a good thing. I think that Sam and Ezra were just one-on-one because, I don't know, it just seemed like the better way to do it for them to just have a conversation about it. But if I were involved in it, I would have probably brought up the Faircloth Amendment, which has banned federal funding of public housing since 1999. And back, I think, in 2020 or 2019. AOC and Bernie had co-sponsored a bill to try to repeal that, right? Which is, it's a huge reason we're in the situation that we're in right now, where we have abdicated, the federal government has abdicated its responsibility in helping provide housing for people. And so we need to be federalizing and nationalizing public utilities, but we also need heavy federal investment in public housing, which Ezra will say, he is open to, and I think the book says that too. I think it should be the thrust of any kind of national housing agenda. And that's where there's a huge difference, I think, in terms of visions. And, I worry about the tripling down on private development. As if that's going to save us. That is still just this, that's why I don't think the book addresses the whole of the issue, frankly. So.
Well, it almost seems to barely scratch the surface, truthfully, because I don't understand how you write an entire book on housing reform. I mean, I understand there's other topics there, but without exploring the closest thing we have to socialized housing in this country. And I guess just the
because
idea
the book is
of
not interested in really in socialized housing. That's how you do that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well put. Anyways, just thought I'd share that perspective. Again,
Thanks for getting
not
so
that I wanna...
fucking granular with us.
Anytime. Less is best.
I'm joking around. It was actually, it's big of him to come on the show, and also thanks for the call, Ben. It was really cool that he came on, and as it's not like Ezra's like a right winger. I mean, he has some good things to say. I just think there's a disagreement about like where the party should go on issues like this,
and fundamentally about politics. But I do think that he should have Sam on to debate Barack Obama. I think that would be very fascinating. I would tune into that.
Absolutely.
Wait, was that offered?
Towards the end, they alluded to it. Yeah, doing it.
Wow.
Ezra Klein and
debating Barack Obama personally?
No.
Sam versus Obama.
I don't think that. I mean, that might be a Herculean task.
That would have to be Ezra being like Ethan Klein and bringing
Obama pops up,
like saying interviewing Obama, but Sam comes in secretly and takes his place. That would be.
Oh no, Sam Seder.
Yeah. What an effing nightmare. All right, so. That's a good idea, though. Maybe Ezra should think about that.
If anyone from the Zoran campaign is listening to this, what about a Zoran Ezra debate about housing? Because Zoran has a pretty interesting proposal for how to build a bunch of public housing.
And includes zoning reform. Who would have thought?
Dun, 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 dun.
It does? I was told the left hates that. I kid. Okay, what should we do here? Let's, I guess, 12, or the Kristi Noem thing. Okay. Kristi Noem was questioned here in the House during the Homeland Security Committee hearing by Representative Eric Swalwell of California. In particular, she's being asked here about the photo that Donald Trump posted of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's hands. And it's a Photoshop photo showing tattoos that they claim are gang tattoos. But again, it wouldn't matter what the tattoos said because they're Photoshopped on. But let's see how she tries to wriggle out of this one.
The tattoos aren't Photoshopped on. The text above tattoos.
The text about the tattoos are say something different.
Purportedly.
Okay.
Purportedly, the tattoos. What's photoshopped on is text MS13, which is decoding
above
the tattoos themselves on each of the knuckles. And the point that I do want to make about all this is that I don't care, even if he has MS13 tattooed on his knuckles in the font of that Photoshop. Okay, because the circumstances here is that the legal system said, do not send that guy to El Salvador for fear of gang retaliation. And then they sent him to El Salvador. So whether he has some sort of entanglements with gang or not are entirely irrelevant. And I would also point out that Bukele, one of the ways he got gang violence under control in El Salvador is doing sweetheart deals with gangs like MS-13. So like this is the Photoshop stuff I think is interesting, but don't get it twisted. He could be the gangiest of gang members, and it still would have been a abomination to send him to CCOT in El Salvador.
Yes, it's about the due process, but the lengths to which like someone like Kristi Noem will go to lie about this is also, I think, instructive in terms of like, Chris Murphy I saw saying the other day that we don't know if our Republicans will ever wake up from this. If Trump says white is black, they'll say the same thing. And this is, I think, an example of that.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. You have an important job. I think you have one of the most important jobs in the cabinet. Thank you for doing it.
I have a quibble already. Okay. The Department of Homeland Security was created after 9/11.
Look, leading the Gestapo is really important to the Nazi war machine, whatever.
ICE is an outgrowth of that. We could we should abolish ICE. We could very severely pare down the Department of Homeland Security is certainly not an extremely important job. So I'm annoyed at the granting of the premise at the beginning, but whatever.
Thank you for doing it. I want you to have credibility and be taken seriously as you do the job. And so I want to put to rest this question about Mr. Garcia and this photo that the president posted on April 21. Madam Secretary, you agree that the letters MS and the number 13 in Times Roman numeral font, that they are doctored on this photo, right?
Congressman Abrego Garcia.
No, I'm just asking about this photo.
It wasn't based off of tattoos. It was based off an entire case.
And I'll accept that
case against him.
For the purpose of this question. You agree, though, that this is doctored. Is that right?
The same protocols that are
Madam
applied
Secretary,
to every
I want you to have credibility, and
enforcement.
I want you to be taken seriously. Is this doctored or is it not
Sir,
doctored?
I am taken quite seriously.
Is it
because
doctored or not
I approach my job
doctored?
with the importance that the president has given me to do
I understand.
my job.
Is it doctored or not
One thing
doctored?
that's important to remember is that every single time a case is built.
Madam Secretary, I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I have a bullshit detector. I'm just asking you, is this doctored or not doctored?
Sir, the protocols in the case built against
Can you
Abrego
answer the
Garcia
question?
were exactly the same.
Madam Secretary,
I don't have
you're-
any knowledge as to that photo you're pointing to.
Okay, can you
I
take
don't, sir.
Can you show her the photo? Walk her the photo down there. No, that one. Please take a look at this photo. It was tweeted by the president on April 21. It's been hanging out there for about a month.
So what is your point?
My question is the numbers and the letter MS-13. Could you look at the photo, please? It's right in front of
Are
you.
you saying Abrego Garcia is not a wife beater?
No, ma'am.
That he's not a criminal.
Ma'am.
He's not a human.
Wife beater? So is every cop in MS-13 too?
Yeah,
So they're in a
I
wolf
guess.
gang.
I guess there have been credible allegations against the Secretary of Defense, and there was a police report filed. So,
Like, what are we talking about? And I'm looking at the so-called evidence besides the tattoos, because they're embarrassed that it's all based on those knuckle tattoos, which they should be. That is fucking ludicrous to send people to a foreign penal colony because of knuckle tattoos. The rest of the evidence is as stupid. It's Chicago Bulls hats. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah.
Well,
My question is the numbers and the letter MS-13. Could you look at the photo, please? It's right in front of
Are
you.
you saying Abrego Garcia is not a wife beater?
No, ma'am.
That he's not a criminal.
Ma'am,
He's not a human trafficker. And he's not a member of MS.
You vouched for Mr. Garcia when
You're
your team
vouching for
said,
a man
ma'am, you
that
vouched
is a
for him when you
known
said he was
violent
mistakenly deported.
Sir,
I didn't vouch for him.
I did not say
In
that.
that
He should
photo,
have been deported. Absolutely.
It's so
There was
telling
never
that
a
you
mistake
won't
to
look at the
deport him,
photo.
And we will not be bringing
Was
him back
it
to
doctored or not?
in staying here. If
Can you
he
look
comes
to
back
your
the
right
country, he
at
would
the
be
photo in front of
right
you?
away.
Madam Secretary, can you look to the right at the photo in front of you?
I have seen this
Okay.
photo as you held it behind your head.
Thank you. And the letters MS and the numbers 13, are those
Is
doctored
this your
or
entire
not?
testimony today is on a doctored photo? You don't want to talk about the facts?
Oh, is it
Okay,
doctored?
so you-
Importance of our national security?
facts?
You acknowledge it was
You to
doctored.
make sure that the United States is protected.
Madam Secretary,
From
this is not a hard
violent
question.
criminals?
Are those doctored or not?
Sir,
Is that actually on his hand or not?
This is unbelievable to me that you're focused.
It's unbelievable
on a
to me
photo
that you can't
think-
look at the photo and tell the
I
American
looked at
people.
the photo, but I don't have any knowledge as to this photo.
Okay, so it's been hanging out there for 4 weeks. You are one of the chief law enforcement officials in the country. What have you done to investigate whether the president misrepresented the reason that that person?
I just want to say, if you remember a week or so ago, we played a clip of Donald Trump being asked by
Can we pull that up?
an ABC News reporter, I think it was Terry Moran,
Yep.
about this photo and why he posted it. And Donald Trump insisted that the letters MS-13 were in fact tattooed on his knuckles, which is, I think, why Noem is just squirming there, like trying to not. She just doesn't want to contradict her boss.
Exactly.
Person has been detained.
Sir,
have
we
you
spend our
done
time-
anything to try and figure out whether that was doctored or not?
The mission of the Department of Homeland Security is to secure our nation and to make sure that we're out there going after those that are the worst of the worst, the criminals, the bad actors. Abrego
Yes.
Garcia.
So the answer is
the
you've done
known
nothing to
terrorist,
correct the
member-
president.
That's insane. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, the idea that he had a domestic issue making him a terrorist and a gang member, protect, like, cut back, Russ. Cutting back from like the worst of the worst. That's what your job should be. And instead, you're going after guys because he had knuckle tattoos and a Chicago Bulls hat. Like, how is this is ridiculous?
Just pull this up from the interview that Russ is talking about here. This is what she's working backwards from. The idea that she hasn't seen the image, I think, people should be very incredulous about that claim, because here it is. This is what she needs. If the president says it, if Donald Trump says it, it must be true, and this is how the rest of the administration operates, at least in public.
He wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute.
But wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattoo.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshopped. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. I picked you, Terry. But you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Okay. Terry, he tries to strong arm him there, tries to help him out and move on. Because he says, Mr. Old Guy is clearly can't read Photoshop, where I sent the image. Let's put it up for posterity. This is text that's supposed to read for people to tell the public that his cannabis, the smiley face, the cross, and the skull mean MS-13. And Trump, the dotard, thinks that this was the real tattoos. And he wasn't, and he tried to correct the reporter who was trying to correct him on it, didn't learn his lesson, and then a month later, you have Kristi Noem, who can't say what she knows to be true, obviously, in the congressional hearing to piss off King Trump.
Well,
she's under oath also.
Yeah.
That's why she won't answer it probably.
Yeah.
She's just avoiding the question. I will say though, I think we're being generous when we say it's Photoshop. That's like MS Paint. That's like MS Paint added. And based on Trump's interpretation, because in this photo, you can see not only did they add the MS-13, but they added like text under the tattoos too that say what like pictorially it says. Like, so it's like marijuana under the, so like he thinks that the guy on his knuckles has an M and then a marijuana leaf and then in like 0.1% font or whatever, the word marijuana spelled out, which I suppose to Trump makes sense. And you saw on Twitter too, like a lot of people making fun of this, but a lot of like the MAGA, the Chud fluencers were just like trying to run interference for this clip, saying like, no, you're misrepresenting what Trump said. He's interpreting the tattoos. He's not saying it's literally written on the knuckles, which is exactly what he was saying in that clip if you're paying attention. But I mean, all of this stuff is, you know, they're trying to try him in the court of public opinion because they already tried him in court and they lost. But the referencing of him being a criminal as though that kind of absolves them of having to follow the rule of law when it comes to engaging with him is like the craziest thing. And it's so distressing that it makes sense to a lot of Americans, because that's when you need your civil and human rights the most, when you're accused of being a criminal. If it was as simple as being accused of being a criminal and you suddenly lose those rights, then then you don't have those rights because they just accuse everyone of being a criminal. This only works because our society has so like racialized the idea of crime and then like criminalized the idea of immigration that people can even think this makes any sense. But this is an inevitable and a disgusting erosion of civil rights under the auspices of two marginalized groups of people who happen to be incredibly oppressed in our society, which is the incarcerated, uniformly incarcerated, and then undocumented and documented migrants. And they're trying to use both of those identities to make it okay for people to go like, oh, well, I guess we just don't get civil or human rights if you're accused of certain types of crimes. Like it's you know, like you said, like, so do cops not get civil human rights because they're like a lot of them are wife beaters? Do like, you know, is that just what is the standard for losing your due process?
Well, what about Trump? Trump has been credibly accused of rape. He was found liable, but there have been criminal charges against Donald Trump. Does that immediately count? Because he was, well, until he became president.
The description of his violent assaults is harrowing.
He is supposed to have his day in court to determine whether or not he did those things, and he would not expect to be already labeled with that without going through due process. But if you're Latino, I mean, you're just by definition a criminal according to them. So,
and the slippage between he's a gang member. Okay, the only thing we have on him with the gang stuff is the Chicago Bulls tattoo and Chicago Bulls hat and knuckle tattoo. But he's a criminal because he had domestic issue, and also he's a terrorist. Where the fuck did that come from? It comes from because when people like Kristi Noem get to use the word terrorist, they get a lot more power and a lot more leeway and clearance for what type of abuses they're allowed to inflict on people.
Yep.
All right.
All right, guys. That's the end of the calls. Unfortunately, gonna read some IMs. Get out of here. The Millrind. Trump has more charges against him. He's been convicted? How quickly we forget. Yes. Progressive Blob. Thank you so much, Brandon. I've been screaming this in my head ever since I saw it. It's like when I doodle measurements and add random text boxes to photos in my iPhone while running around shopping for my boss. Right, like when you're accidentally trying to save a photo and you, on your iPhone, scrape your finger across and you realize you've drawn like a big black line through it. Yeah.
That happens to me all the time, for sure.
Yep. Sam's dead mouse. Kristi Noem should know about artificial augmentations. Gerald from New Orleans. About now, I would have asked Noem, what are you hiding? He should have stopped saying doctored and used a different word. Saying labeled or like, you know... Vinny from Buffalo. West Wing Democratic politicians are unequipped to handle fascism. True.
Also, one thing about those tattoos that they're saying are MS-13, I made this point before, you would expect them to be able to demonstrate similar gang tattoos on another convicted MS-13 gang member that correspond to what we're seeing on like Abrego Garcia. Not that it matters when it comes to like them violating his due process, but they haven't even been able to reproduce that. They haven't even been able to show like, okay, here's another MS-13 member who has this sequence of tattoos pictorially or something even like close to it. It's a post hoc justification for their attempts to erode civil rights in the country.
Cole from Little Rock. My dad worked for the Forest Service for years in timber sales, and I worked in solar for years as well. We both compared notes on how private companies would, in both industries, took advantage of government contracting to inflate profits. How much does that affect Ezra's argument about how expensive federal housing is? Good question. Mickey Moose. Too bad strict environmental regulations prevent you from taking more phone calls. Abundance now. Starspawn via The Guardian. Audible unveils plans to use AI voices to narrate audiobooks. F this world of greedy slime bags. Jesus Christ. How is that not a violation of the union contract with, like, voice actors?
So does Audible sign one?
I don't know.
No,
I
absolutely
guess.
not. I mean, Audible. I mean, this is sort of an acceleration of long-term trends. And I'll confess, I've used text-to-speech since before they called it AI. But Audible used to have a program where you could be a narrator yourself if you had like a home studio. I'm not surprised at all about that. But the point is that like any sort of profit that is freed up by that sort of thing, because I think text-to-speech is pretty useful, it can't be allowed to be put in the hands of people like Mark Andreessen. We need to reclaim that through mass confiscatory taxation and put it towards social ends, like saying giving all the people putting out of jobs by this shit access to healthcare and housing.
Exactly. Lord loves a lefty. No AI provisions in the SAG contracts. It's a big point of contention with rank and file against Fran Drescher. Okay, there we go now. Thank you. PCT Joe, given the reports of how few sent to CCOT have records, Trump may have more felonies than all of them combined. That's a good point. Edward Gregorian, I listened to the Kanye song because I was curious. It's just his insane Twitter rants over the last couple of years with extra Heil Hitlers. Rogan is an effing moron. It's not the ultimate pushback if it's the ramblings of a dude with mental health problems.
Yeah, I think after this we should let people move on from it, to be honest.
Progressive Blog 2028. Thank you. Oh, wait. I read that. 2 more. Parade of Idiots. Everything is done is in such bad faith, nonstop bad faith, and it is so tiresome. Post-Truth America. And the final I am of the day, Ramona Frankenstein. I used to joke that the little ghost with hard eyes I have tattooed on my arm makes me a part of a gang, according to the Trump administration. But I actually did just get a really politically radical tattoo recently, so they can no longer say really joke about it. I got a tattoo of the 3 bullet casings that say deny, defend, depose on them. That's probably a death sentence. Probably death sentence worthy shit. Anyway, feel free to talk about how badass I am. You are
very badass. We have to not grant the premise that being associated with gangs is a license for the state to fucking crush you. If you do something in the course of being a member of a gang that is illegal, by all means prosecute that person. But just having been in a gang or have gotten gang tattoos is not it should not be viewed as a fucking crime.
Yep.
They don't
All
have
right,
cops
guys.
in gangs.
True. Appreciate you all. Brandon, Binder, Matt, Russ, thank you guys so much. We will see you all tomorrow.